We are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, online at WTKA.com. Sam Webb, Ira Weintraub, and man, it just feels like you talk about a sense of normalcy coming back. I'm getting that feeling right now. We got the NCAA tournament upon us, and we have our panel that has joined us for years, helping you fill out your brackets, breaking everything down. This crew, I think of you look any of around the country, I put this crew up against any of them. Starting off first with, in my opinion, the best guy on the college basketball beat in the country, Brendan Quinn. Brendan, how are you?
Sam, that was very kind of you. Thanks, man. But I'm actually a golf writer. Right. What's up, man? It is great to be back. This is truly a tradition unlike any other.
Absolutely. We also have Ed Feng from the Power Rank. Brendan is from the Athletic. If you don't follow him on the Athletic, what are you waiting for? Get on over to theathletic.com. We have Ed Feng from the powerrank.com. Ed, tell folks about the Power Rank. And how are you, by the way?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be talking to you guys this week instead of being sick with COVID last year and missing the NCAA tournament. So I'm just beyond thrilled. The Power Rank is my site for using analytics to make better March Madness predictions. Check everything out at thepowerrank.com. And I'll have you set with all your numbers-based predictions, but not just number-based predictions. I'm writing down everything Coach Ramsey tells me today, so I can incorporate that as well.
Hey, well, wonders never cease. The world is changing. No better example of that than Charles Ramsey seeing a guy. I just heard a story. He just told this story, and he can't bring it to air because we might get banned by the FCC if he did. But young player from his team gets a breakaway dunk. After he gets the breakaway dunk, he walks up in the stands and says, "Yeah, how about that?" You know, getting a little dap from everybody in the crowd. Charles Ramsey, instead of exploding, because if you ever watch Charles Ramsey coach a game, you know the beads of sweat start pouring off the head. You know, the lights kind of magnify the perspiration, but he was calm, no sweat, you know, no sort of getting outside of himself. Just calm down and say, "Hey, young man, don't ever do that again." with a few colorful words placed in between. Isn't that right, Coach?
With a few expletives, a timeout, my hand around his shoulder. "Son, if you ever do that again." And you know, the caveat of all this is my assistant coach is my former point guard, LJ Frazier from Eastern Michigan and Ypsilanti grad too. So he knows me inside and out. And he immediately said, "Coach is going to kill him." And let me tell you something, I was remarkably calm. And the one thing I will say about this year with the pandemic, and I feel for the kids, but I have absolutely had a blast. There's not a day that I go home without a smile on my face. It's been a joy coaching my son and his friends. And so, you know, I enjoy it, but you see some of the darndest things. And I just write it off to the pandemic and keep it moving.
Yeah, well, hey, man, we have seen a lot of, especially when you talk about Michigan basketball, for them to do what they did in the regular season this year with this Big Ten league year. I mean, 4 teams, four when you combine the 1 and 2 lines, 4 teams to make that the first time in the history of the tournament that's happened. That's just nothing short of spectacular. So let's dive right in and look at Michigan's region, guys, and tell me what you think of their draw. Let's start with the analytical view, Ed, and as you break down Michigan's region, I actually like the draw compared to, say, Illinois. Michigan was obviously the 4th 1 seed, but I mean, I think Michigan has not that it'd be easy, but I like the path if it's LSU and Florida State, like some analysts are predicting.
Yeah, I like Michigan's path a lot. I think Alabama's the weakest 2 seed out there. I think they're a great team, but I like that. You don't have a situation where you have like 2 underachieving but talented 8-9 teams like Wisconsin and North Carolina, like Baylor's dealing with in the South. I think Florida State is an excellent team, very athletic, can really shoot the 3 ball. They're definitely going to be dangerous. you're always going to have dangerous teams. It's never a cakewalk to the Final Four. I like the region. It's really unfortunate with the Livers injury, but Michigan is still the best team in this region, and I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that.
Cursory glance, Brendan, what did you think of Michigan's region?
I don't like it.
Why not?
I don't like it for Michigan. First of all, I strongly disagree that Alabama is the weakest 2 seed. I don't see that at all.
We shall see.
But even the road to get to Alabama potentially, St. Bonaventure is way underseeded. I think you can make a case that LSU is underseeded. That 8-9 game, that's probably the second best 8-9 game on the bracket, other than the
Carolina.
Thank you.
Carolina, Wisconsin.
And even, Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech's a really good one too. But St. Bonaventure, Georgia, LSU's got like pros, multiple plural pros on
Under
that
contract
team.
too. Under contract too.
You put them out there, you don't know what's going to happen. And then Florida State, like I've been saying this, Leonard Hamilton is going to get Florida State to a Final Four at some point. It's a question of if it's this year, next year, the following year. I don't know, but it is going to happen, and they are tougher than hell. And I wouldn't want to run into Florida State if I'm Michigan.
Well, listen, it's a contract year for Javonte Smart at LSU. This is what Will Wade made that strong ass offer for, right? For this moment. But here's the thing that I look at LSU and it makes me think that Michigan, tough they may be, well, I think Michigan is going to be able to beat them. LSU is a one-dimensional team. They are a really athletic, really talented offensive force. And it'll be interesting to see in this styles make fights kind of match up with St. Bonaventure, who can control tempo. I think it'll be LSU. But when you face Michigan, you better be able to guard. And LSU is a terrible defensive team. As much as we talk about Iowa and the defense they don't play, have you checked out LSU? And I had to check the rankings just to see if the eyeball test matches up. And I'm looking at it right now. And LSU 125.
That's roughly where I got them too.
Defensive efficiency. It's like, man, these dudes don't even think about defense. Rams. I mean, you gotta not practice defense to be that bad.
Well, it's basically what we're talking about. It's not just LSU. We're talking about the SEC as a whole. The SEC was all about who's going to score the most. Brendan made some great points. This might be the best 8-9 games I've seen in a lot of years. When you look at our 8-9 matchups, I don't know if you call them underseeded but our 8-9 games are tremendous this year. And anyone that comes out that 8-9 game is going to pose a problem for the next opponent, the next round, in 3 of the regions. Number 2, I'm really not enthused about Michigan's draw. I don't like it. They pose numerous. They're going to have to play very good basketball to advance. They're not going to be able to have an average game and move on. I'm worried to death about LSU, even though they don't guard. I'm worried to death. I think Florida State. I thought Florida State was a Final Four team for sure last season, and they're so methodical, and they do guard. They guard. I looked at the game the other day they played in the semis, and they were down 8-9 at halftime. And then the next thing you look at, they just went on numerous stops where they just stop. And the next thing you know, they're up 8 or 9. And they do it in a very non-dramatic fashion. It's very workmanlike, And so, on the flip side, I think Illinois has a path. If they play basketball like they've been playing, they will absolutely breeze to the Final Four.
What are you, man?
That's my opinion.
Are you kidding me? So you think Florida State is a tougher matchup than Oklahoma State?
Absolutely.
Oh yes,
absolutely.
I do not.
Absolutely.
I do not.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
This Florida State team that you're touting, they had a chance twice to win championships here in the last couple of weeks. They could have, the regular season was on the line and they lost to Notre Dame. Anyone see Notre Dame in this tournament? I don't see Notre Dame anywhere. Last I checked, Notre Dame's on the outside looking in. Then they had a chance against Georgia Tech. And while Georgia Tech is this hot team, I mean, this isn't your average ACC. You know, this isn't
By the way,
go ahead.
Who does Georgia Tech have that first round?
Georgia Tech has Loyola Chicago.
Yeah. Georgia Tech scares me. I think Georgia Tech can very easily get to the Sweet 16.
Well,
they have the player. They have the player of the year in the ACC. They're a lot more impressive than what I wanted to give them credit. They are.
You just said Illinois is going to breeze through to
exactly. You just said
Final Four.
Through the Final Four.
No, but I think that will be the game. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
That will be the game right there that determines if they get through that. I don't see a wall. But Georgia Tech is they're a good ball club. They're a good ball club.
Let me ask you. That means Houston doesn't seem to scare you that much on the other side of bracket.
They really don't. Houston, to me, and this is my point. And I don't know if you can say, but when I saw Houston got a number 2, I was like, whoa. And I say the same thing with Iowa getting a number 2. I'm like, those are not, to me, great number 2s. But then I had to ask myself, if I take them out, who do I put in? But, when I think number 2, when I think top 8 teams in the country, I don't think Iowa and I don't think Houston.
What about Bama?
Good. Excuse me?
What about Bama?
Bama has a great, what do I want to say? They have a great cliche in how they play. I think someone is going to figure them out in the tournament. They're not going to be able to run and shoot freely. And I think if you get Bama and you have them playing on one side of the floor, they're really going to struggle versus being able to play the whole floor. So you get Bama in the half court, you push them to one side, which teams are going to figure this out. They're going to struggle. And then you make Bama guard on the other end. If you have any type of post game, interior game, they'll struggle. But you can't argue that they're a high octane type team.
Well, I'm still stuck on we just jump right past Florida State, your Florida State and Oklahoma State comparison. Number one, getting back to the point with Florida State, they had a chance to win. They had a chance to wrap up a crown twice, lost the regular season to Notre Dame, lost the postseason to Georgia Tech. And in that Georgia Tech game, man, they turned the basketball over 25 times. This is a team that can be really sloppy on the court. Lest we forget, this is a team that last time anyone see UCF? Is UCF in this field? I'm looking around. Did I miss it? Is UCF Ramsey in the field team?
Sam, you're saying all that.
Question.
Sam, I'm gonna ask you this question. Out of our, when I say our, I'm talking about Michigan. Out of our last 5 games, what was our record?
And who did they play?
No. Who did I asked you a simple question.
Michigan lost 2 tournament teams.
No,
they lost 2 tournament teams. They
didn't lose ask you. Game. Brendan, what was our record the last 5 games?
Michigan's record the last 5 games?
3.
Yeah.
Right?
Huh?
Something like
2
that.
and 3, right?
Lost 2 of their last 5? Yeah.
Yeah. So, Sam, what I'm saying is we lost 3 of our last 5.
True.
I don't care who you lose to, how you lose. That becomes, those are demons that you have to work out. That's not how you want to go into the NCAA tournament.
Florida
you
State
don't want to go.
Demons. Florida State has more demons than Michigan.
Just like people say, "Oh, it's great to get knocked out in the quarterfinals. It's great. It's great to get knocked out in the semifinal. It's never good to lose tournament time. You don't want those demons. Understand something. The tournament has been moved back this week. We don't play the first games until Friday and Saturday. So guess what? Everyone comes in well rested.
Right.
It's not the traditional, you play on Sunday and you could be playing on Thursday again. Everybody is getting a couple more days rest. So
So tell me this. So let's start with you, Brendan. Why are you not sold on Oklahoma State as a 4 seed? Did you say you didn't think Oklahoma State was as good a 4 seed?
That was me.
Oh, that was you, Ed. So
Yeah.
why don't you think Oklahoma State is as good a 4 seed as Florida State?
I mean, clearly you have to deal with Cade Cunningham with Oklahoma State, and they play good defense. I'd rather deal with that than Florida State, their athleticism, their 3-point shooting. And yes, they can be sloppy, but I've also seen them smack the living heck out of Virginia, which is a team I really respect and that I think is kind of a dangerous team in that West region. So, yeah, I mean, I think Florida State's a good team. I would rather play Oklahoma State than Florida State.
Brandon, what do you think?
I mean, with Oklahoma State, you can get some whiffs of Carmelo Anthony, Syracuse. If he can pull up those guys around him, like Cade is no joke. He's going to be the best player on the floor in every game they play. And, can you get contributing parts? I don't know if they got Jerry McNamara and Hakeem Warwick around him, but, they got some dudes. That's a dangerous team. I thought they were still, though. I didn't know that they were going to be a 4 seed.
Right.
So, Florida State looks like a 4 seed to me. I don't know if Oklahoma State, I had them as high as a 4 seed.
now, what I will say,
lower than a 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Sam, what I will say in regards to what Brendan is saying, I think people have really slept on the Big 12 this year. I've had this argument all year. There's not much difference between the Big 12 and the Big 10. And the great thing, and it's just my opinion, there's not much difference between the Big 12 and the Big 10. And I think when you get to the tournament, it plays itself out. But the Big 12 is pretty good.
Yeah.
Then you're making my point. They just beat West Virginia twice in 5 days. They beat Baylor. They beat Oklahoma twice at the end of the season. They beat Texas Tech. I mean, their only losses in the past couple weeks were to Texas on Saturday and then at Baylor, last week. So what are we talking? I mean, a couple weeks ago. So what are we talking about?
It's the same Baylor team, though?
What we're talking about is that you're not giving Florida State its proper due. I think the three of us.
You just talked about the conference, the Big 12 conference.
No, but now you can talk about the conference, but then you have to talk about a certain team. Well, hell, excuse my language, but hell, Gonzaga's number 1 team in the country. God dang, the WCC you can jump up and down and can't crush a grape, but they're still the best team in the conference. I mean, in the country. So let's throw that conference theory somewhat out the window.
I'm trying to follow your logic. I'm trying to follow your logic, Coach. I'm getting lost because I agree with you on the Big 12. And
so you're telling me Gonzaga's not the best team in the country.
I didn't say that. You brought Gonzaga into the argument.
What conference do they play in?
I don't understand why we're talking.
He's trying to say it doesn't matter that Florida State plays in the ACC. They're a good team.
Why when
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Ed.
We just talked up the Big 12, and look, last I checked, West Virginia's a 3 seed, right? Isn't West Virginia a 3 seed in this mix?
Yeah.
You pull that up. They're a 3 seed. They got beat twice by Oklahoma State here down the stretch. Who are the other 3? Kansas is a 3 seed. They Oklahoma State split with them. I mean, in the second best league in the country, and you had Oklahoma State beating these teams. So that's what I don't get. I don't get how they're lower than West Virginia for sure. So I think Illinois has a really tough road personally, but we haven't got to that bracket yet. Your sleeper in the East. Give me your sleeper from the East, Brendan Quinn. Who do you have as maybe the lower seeded team that might rise up and surprise some people in that region?
The lowest Sweet 16 team I have is BYU as a 6 seed. Coming in, playing well. Any team that can play for even 20 minutes the way they did with Gonzaga is a pretty damn good team. In terms of that second game, or their first game getting Michigan State or UCLA, I think whoever survives that Michigan State UCLA game, which is going to be an absolute rock fight, I think is going to be ripe to get beat there. And then I'm just not in on Texas, so give me BYU.
Okay, Ed.
I mean, I'm going with Michigan State here. I think this is a team that has greatly underachieved this year, but they did start the season 13th in the AP poll.
Wait. The metrics guy, the guy who takes efficiency numbers, is taking Michigan State to make a run. He has the worst numbers of anyone in the field.
They like I said, they haven't played this year. But one of the things is I don't want to tap myself too much on the back, but the New York Times linked to an article I wrote in 538 a couple years ago about how the preseason poll is still a pretty accurate predictor right now. And the idea is that you have this wisdom of crowds by brilliant people like Brendan Quinn that vote in these things. And it's an assessment of how talented it is.
I told Larry to piss off.
Some people less talented than Brendan, but people who study these teams in the preseason. So anyways, I don't know. I mean, I think clearly they haven't played well, but you have, Aaron Henry's a stud. Josh Langford's a great wing player. Watts basically single-handedly beat Michigan that last game of the season to bring him into the season. If I'm taking a lower-seeded team in any of these regions, it's probably Michigan State.
Rams in that East region. Who's your lower?
BYU scares me. They can really shoot the ball. They're well coached. They've been, a perennial winner. And the fact that they have decent size, but the fact that they can spread the floor and shoot the ball can do a ton come tournament time. You get in a rhythm, and unlike how Gonzaga walked them down in the conference championship, a lot of teams, if they get a cushion, 10, 12 points, that's going to be good enough, to carry them all the way through. Everybody's not going to be able to walk them down. So in the East, I'd have to go with BYU.
And I'm just going to say, I know Michigan fans don't want to hear this, but if you're talking sleepers, do not sleep on St. Bonaventure. It's a top 25 Ken Pom team. They are extremely well coached. Mark Schmidt is one of the best that does it.
Well, tell me this, Brendan. How come Boston College didn't figure that out?
Boston College, I could talk for the next 20 minutes about that hire that Boston College just made, but what are they doing? Just wait. You could hire the coach from College of Charleston in June. Why you needed to do it right now with all these teams still playing? Howard Isley, Mark Schmidt, anybody.
And I'll be honest with you. It sounded good and all that. Howard was never really in the mix. He
never interviewed.
That's what I just tell you? Howard was never in the mix.
Ridiculous.
But you have opportunity to get an alum, a successful head coach like Mark Schmidt, that's more than seasoned and accomplished. You got to ask yourself,
you could walk down the road and hire Tommy Amaker. Dude's right there.
Well, no, they've tried that a couple of times. Tommy said Tommy has a better job.
I don't know if he would have taken it this time. I don't know. You would know better than me, Rams. But I don't know.
He would not in a million years. He has a better job. He's gonna contend for conference championships. He's gonna make more money than we'll ever know because it's private and they don't have to disclose it. And he doesn't have the headaches. At BC, it's a hair puller. Mark Schmidt played the perfect system, had the perfect ideology to get that thing back on. Mark Schmidt is the closest thing that they would have had to Al Skinner, in my regard.
I agree on Mark Schmidt, but I'm also going to say Harvard ain't paying Tommy Amaker $2.5 million. BC could pay him $2.5 million.
You really think Harvard's paying him $2.5 million, Rams?
Rams. Harvard is not paying Tommy Amaker $2.5 million. He's probably making. I'm going to give him $1 million at Harvard.
So we have this conversation.
People can't see your facial expressions on the radio. We are on the radio.
Good. Brendan, all I'll tell you is Tommy wears several hats at Harvard. And what they gave him those hats so they could pay him a large amount of money and justify it. Tommy is not only the head basketball coach, he's assistant to the president. A lot of people don't understand this.
Right.
His job title is assistant to the president of the university.
I bet that's not $1 million job, Brandon.
Well,
Wow.
Hey, this is where I bring in Ed.
Look, he has $1 million peace
Sam.
of mind. I will give you that. He has $1 million peace of mind because you said he didn't have a headache.
I mean, the president of
That's
Harvard is
true.
making multi-millions of dollars, so the assistant.
Say that
All
again,
right,
Ed.
all right, I'm with you, Rams.
And Ed, help. Who has the largest endowment in the world?
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Ed
Harvard
Feng is
University.
trying to get an analytics guy.
Harvard University. See, Brendan is telling
analytics guy.
yeah, Harvard has the largest endowment in the world. They can do what they want to do, Brendan.
We got sidetracked. I got to get one in before we get off the East real quick. Patrick Ewing at Georgetown. Anything to the run that they just went on? Do you think they can carry that over?
Absolutely. The thing that scares me when I looked at, and the only thing that missed in that run was fans in the stand, in the Garden. I think if you had to have fans in the Garden during this Georgetown run, it would have been absolutely off the wall.
It would have been.
They looked like an old-fashioned, big, physical Georgetown team. They didn't win. They dominated games. Their 4 games, they dominated.
They beat Villanova without Colin Gillespie. At one point.
Well, but that happened. That happened. Villanova's going to play Thursday and Friday without who, Brendan?
Well, yeah, they're playing without Colin Gillespie.
Hey,
Okay,
man.
so-
See, Brendan just made. It's hard to follow sometimes, Rams. It's hard to follow, man.
Yeah, hey man, you have to play with what you got.
Okay. All right, listen.
Come on, man.
We need to get to a break. We will continue this on the other side. For those of you who follow the show, you can pick up the rest of this tomorrow morning. We got to keep the bracket breakdown going, and you can listen to the rest on tomorrow's edition of the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, The Ticket, the official voice of University of Michigan Sports Ann Arbor, a Cumulus station.
You guys are hilarious.
We're on the your conversation. Have fun.
Coach, you're not giving yourself enough credit. You're I'm talking to you, Coach, man.
No, it was it's great though. It's great. No, so Ira, do we just pick right up? Do we just pick right up right here? All right. So listen, the Georgetown, that's the matchup that I would love to see in the Sweet 16 for Michigan, assuming they make it that far, and I do have them making it that far. The 8-9 matchup, I agree, between St. Bonaventure and LSU is an interesting matchup because of the contrast in styles and who's going to be able to dictate tempo in that game. As well coached as St. Bonaventure is, I wonder if there's just too much firepower on the other side, Brendan. That's my question. At the end of the day,
Could be.
I think it's just too much firepower.
But the Bonnies play slow, like I think you're going to see a lot of, one pass possessions by LSU, and then Bonaventure going to come down, they're going to run their stuff, and your LSU's players are going to start getting real frustrated, and then next thing they know, it's 64-63, and there's 30 seconds left in the game,
Could be. I'm hoping though that we get a chance to see Georgetown, Michigan. That'd be a hell of
Juwan Howard versus Patrick Ewing would. There wouldn't be enough time to write the storylines in that game.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Sam still doesn't like Florida State.
So let's
You have two coaches with a combined 4,500 career NBA games between the two of them.
Right. So as far as the East goes, so let's just real quick. Who do you have coming out of the East, Ed Feng?
I'm sticking with Michigan.
Okay, sticking with Michigan. Brendan, who do you have coming out of the East?
My head says Michigan. My heart says Florida State.
Okay. So which one?
For the purposes of your radio show, Sam, I'll go ahead and say Michigan.
Rams, who do you have coming out of the East?
My heart says Michigan. But us being in a COVID year, I have a Michigan-Texas matchup, and I could very well see Texas come out of there.
Really?
That would be my higher seed. If there's a such thing, dark horse would be Texas.
You think Shaka has a little something extra saying y'all should have hired me?
Well, I think Shaka more than anything is undervalued, underappreciated. And starting first of all, right there at Texas. And Texas did the same thing with Rick Barnes. You know, Rick Barnes should still be at Texas with statues, but they ran him out of there because they're brighter than everybody. Same thing with their football coaches. You know, Scott Keegan only be there 3 or 4 years, but they run him out. So I think what we have is Texas is better than people, want to give them credit. Shaka's a better coach. He has an interesting cast of characters. I like some of the kids he has on his team, but my heart says Michigan. What we can't have, we have to keep these 7 bodies healthy. We can't get anybody nicked up, and we're going to just have to play. And now Hunter Dickinson is going to start to see bigger bodies too. That's the other thing in this region. He's going to see bigger bodies.
He just played in the Big Ten. I think the best thing that Michigan has going for it is the fact that all these teams are going to be seeing Hunter Dickinson for the first time. We forget, the 4 of us, that all these other teams that we've just seen Dickinson play against, they were all playing him for the second time. And they scouted it up and they scouted it up. Every time that he played a team for the first time this year, beat the hell out of them. So I think the biggest thing Michigan has is that it's Hunter Dickinson going against teams for the first time, and he's not lining up against Kofi and Luka and all these dudes.
I mean, and Kofi was the only one. Kofi was the only one that, one-on-one just did, just slowed Hunter down, stymied Hunter. And their friend,
my man in Minnesota might disagree with that, Sam.
Well, in their first matchup, Liam didn't. Their first matchup, Hunter dominated.
When they won in Minnesota,
Michigan won the first matchup with Minnesota.
I thought they lost the whatever one was in Minnesota.
Yeah, that was the second one, wasn't it? Was it the second one, or maybe it was the first? It all runs together. I know that
it was the second game in Minnesota. The first game was here.
Yeah, the first game was here, and he owned Liam in that game. He owned Liam Robinson in that game, and Liam was like, I mean, that's why he was so fired up in the rematch.
That's right.
Really fired up in the rematch and went off, and Hunter had some trouble in that contest. But to your point, every single other guy, sans Kofi, man, Hunter did his thing. Unless they ran a double team at him, and he was forced to share the basketball a little bit more in that situation, but. I disagree that he's going to see bigger guys than he just saw.
I mean he's not. There is no bigger guy in college basketball than Coburn, right? I mean, seriously, is there someone bigger than 285, 290? Not that I know.
He's one of the largest humans I've ever.
Yeah,
it shall
be. I like to say he's halfway between Bruce Banner and Hulk.
It shall be interesting to see. We'll have to get Coach back on. So all right. I got Michigan. Do you think that we will see again, here in this tournament, Isaiah Livers, Brendan?
I mean, made in the Final Four. Yeah. I don't think it's ruled. I don't think it's out of the question. I'll put it that way. Right? That's fair. You don't know how 2 weeks of rest will go. Is it unlikely? I would think so. But even if he can give you 15, 20 minutes and a couple 3-point attempts in the Final Four, you take it, right? So as long as it's nothing that could be injured worse, then why not? But I don't know if you're banking on that, right, Sam?
No, you can't bank on it.
It's just tough when you're losing your best shooter, right? I think Brown can step in on the defensive end, and I think this team will live up to what they've played on the defensive end of this ball. But you take out your best shooter, it changes things, right? It's a little bit easier to double Hunter. And yeah, that's the thing I worry about. That's the end of the floor I worry about.
I mean, the thing that really gets me is like Sean D. Brown's role on this team was perfect, right? And you got to be able to figure out a way that you essentially keep him just doing what he was doing. You don't necessarily need more out of him, right? You just need him to kind of stay steady with what he was. And the guys around him, right? Everyone steps up their game a little bit more, maybe a little bit more out of Eli, a little bit more out of Franz, a little bit more out of Hunter Dickinson. That seems to me like the special sauce, not Shawnee Brown being Isaiah Livers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, look, if you can get him 7-8 minutes a half in the Final Four, giving you some shooting off the bench, I mean, that's gravy. Hopefully they can do that. Let's go on over to the South region. And a Baylor team, and I'm curious what the numbers say about Baylor, Ed, because you look at them in defense as much as you look at the talent they have on their squad. Defense was their calling card, and they just don't look like the same team defensively at this point. Post pause.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, last year was a lot of the same guys. Top 5 team in my adjusted points per possession up till their COVID break. Top 5 team in defensive efficiency, and they've fallen like a rock. I think, they're not getting back on defense. Like good defenders like Mark Vital are just letting guys drive around them. And the question is whether they can fix that. From my understanding, they did, some of the players had COVID, and like, is it an effort thing? Can they just not put the same effort on that end of the floor that they could before? I think they're one of the biggest question marks in this entire tournament. And clearly they're great on offense. They've become a team that's trying to outscore you, and that wasn't their formula before.
Yeah. All right.
I would be inclined to say that more likely than not, as long as people are healthy, that I mean, it's not like Baylor sputtered to the end, losing games left and right. They still found a way to win. They're still the best 3-point shooting team in the country. Are you really going to pick against the best 3-point shooting team in the country? And
I am, because I don't think they can sustain that.
They just did for 3 months.
Both Butler and Mitchell are well above their career averages this year, and they I don't think they can sustain. I mean, they've had some good games lately, but that's another reason why I'm not as high on Baylor.
Okay,
right?
I like Baylor. I mean, they're a really good team, man. I don't know what else to say there.
They're a really good team. I'm not saying that. I'm not disagreeing with that, but they have a lot of issues right now, and more so than I would say more so than Michigan or any of the other 2 1 seeds.
But don't you have some time to get things worked out a little bit? Like,
I think you do.
Are you that worried? Are you that worried or shook about a game versus North Carolina or Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not.
Wisconsin,
you know what?
I'm not.
I'll be honest with you.
I expect honesty, Rams. Frankly,
I think Carolina can pose problems to Baylor. Baylor is not very big at all, and then they depend on 3-point shooting. Okay, they have no post presence, and I think for whatever reason, Carolina could absolutely demolish them on the glass. If Carolina gets through and they can guard them, they can give them problems, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will say, I was starting to wonder about Walker Kessler there, but he, second half of the season has started to show up there, and I'm just not gonna. I mean, Wisconsin has to be one of the bigger disappointments in all of college basketball. They had everyone back. A team that could shoot it as well as they could shoot it. They guard you. They overcame adversity last year, unlike many. You think about everything they had to go through and still achieve to the level that they achieved to last year. It made me think that the adversity that everyone faced this year was going to be something that they could handle, and clearly they couldn't, because this is a team that sputtered mightily down the stretch, and I just don't see them getting it together. Talk about something unsustainable. The way they shot the basketball last year proved to be unsustainable.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're not the same team shooting the basketball this year.
So where do you have Baylor? What are your feelings on Baylor, Shane?
I think that Baylor is a team that when you look at their pause was different than Michigan's pause, because they had guys who actually had COVID.
Right.
And
do we know exactly who?
I don't. I mean, that information might be out there, but I didn't see it. And I just think the further they are removed from that, the deeper they are into their recovery, the more they start to look like they're going to start to look like the team that they were on the defensive end of the floor too. So that's why I still have Baylor. I'm not concerned about Carolina, or especially not concerned about Wisconsin. Yeah, I think Carolina's going to beat Wisconsin for that matter. And then I look at the draw. The one that would be, the most difficult to me because they really guard you and they got a dominant post presence. It's Purdue.
Purdue worries me
too.
Yeah,
I mean, essential home court advantage.
Yeah,
I'm stuck on that game for personally, that Baylor Purdue game. It just seems like a spot for Purdue to go. When you least expect it, Matt Painter takes him to the freaking Elite Eight, right?
Right. Yep. I mean, we skipped over.
Wait, how about Purdue knocks out Baylor to free up Indiana to hire Scott Drew? How do we feel about that?
So you got. I guess my question is, why would Scott Drew take that job?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, to me, and I think more of the Indiana job than I guess a lot of folks that I've read, a lot of columnists do. They are downplaying the magnitude of the Indiana job, I guess, relative to what it was, but it's still a blue blood job, right? But for Scott Drew, who to me, the coaching job he's done at Baylor is one of the best I've ever seen, considering what he inherited, murder, cover up.
And he can win a title there.
And he can win a title there. He's a king in Baylor. Why would you leave that to go to Indiana? And if you don't get it right, they fire you in a few years. He'll never get fired from Baylor.
Well, because you could be the king of 10 times as many people that care about you. You're being a king, I think is the argument.
But you
cares.
You can win a title.
You are still coaching basketball in Waco, Texas, at a football school,
right?
What do you think?
I mean, where you think, Coach?
I've never been there, but that sounds miserable to me.
What do you think? For Indiana, you think that's a realistic name for them?
If you've never been there, Brendan, you should take a trip. One of the most fascinating things about Waco, how in the last 20 years, it's gone from a virtual ghost town to the infrastructure that they have built up around that campus is utterly amazing. They have boats pulling up to the football stadium. They have some of the best facilities in the country. And Waco is not that far from Dallas. We're only talking 45 miles from Dallas. So you're close to a metropolitan city.
We got sell hell for Rams. Sell hell for Rams. Go ahead, Ram.
Indiana has this thought that they're blue bloods. Come on. They haven't been a blue blood. Indiana has not been to a Final Four since Mike Davis was the head coach. What was that? 2000 what, Ed? 4, 5?
3 or 4, yeah. They had a really good team in 2013.
Can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah, we got you.
You're good.
Okay, for whatever reason, I'm muted.
Well,
I don't know. I just don't see that. I don't understand.
I look at it and while it is not what we have known Indiana to be in the past, I mean, blue blood means that there's a part of you, there's a part of the fabric of that program that is always there, always viewed as upper echelon, regardless of the performance. Right. There's an esteem attached to it that is basically oblivious to whatever, impervious to any sort of downgrading that the record might how it might impact other programs. It just will never remove the blue blood status. So I think it'll draw looks from some of these, but not Scott Drew. And Chris Beard. Chris Beard is the highest paid coach in the Big 12. Why would Chris Beard leave Texas Tech at this point? You can recruit Texas Tech. He was just in a championship game. Why would you leave if you were him? The name that's most intriguing to me, if they can afford it, is Nate Oates. Nate Oates, he was able to carry on his success at Buffalo. Nate Oates has gone to Alabama, turned him into a winner really quickly. Nate Oates is a Midwesterner from Wisconsin, and Nate Oates is at a football school. So if you're going to appeal to one of those guys, it's like, man, you can see him viewing the Indiana job as one that's okay, man. I'll accept this challenge, so to speak. I just don't know that they can afford. I don't know that Indiana can afford it after paying the buyout for Archie.
I mean, Sam, we've talked about Nate Oates. I love him as a coach. Love his story. Love what he's done at Buffalo. Really respect what he's done at Bama this season. Although I'm sticking with my earlier take that they're the weakest 2 seed, which we can talk about. I think he's a heck of a coach. We talked about this when Beeline left, that he was one of my top 2 for this job. So yeah, I would love to know what you guys think.
I would call Dana Altman before Nate Oates.
Okay,
that's fair.
Would you call John Beeline?
Yes.
I would too. Some people are talking about the age. Ira was saying that he just doesn't see them going at Beeline. He mentioned Dane Fife, and I'm just like, man, all these names we're talking about, and you hire Dane Fife
I mean, you have to have Beeline say no before you get down to Dane.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Dane, but I mean, the guy just he won Big Ten championships. He went to Final Fours. Like, I don't know how much he's a fit for Indiana in that, like, not only the system he runs, but also, speak of the devil.
Dane said, "Don't talk about me, damn it," or Beeline, one of them.
Yeah. All right. I gotta hop off here for a second.
All right, no problem. What about the idea of Beeline and Dane Fife coaching there outside of the box? But I wonder if that could be something that happened. We got to get back on the tournament talk. I think 5-12. You guys like Winthrop over Villanova in the South?
No.
You don't, even without Colin Gillespie?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have Colin Gillespie, but they got some other pros on that team. I'm not really high on Villanova. When they were kind of knocking on the door of being one of the top seeds in the tournament, I didn't like them, but like they're still a pretty good team. I mean, yes, it hurts to not have Gillespie, but I think they're still an 8-point favorite in that game. So I would go with the 5 there.
Yeah, I got Winthrop in that game. What about you, Rams? 5-12, Winthrop, Villanova. I think we have some technical difficulty with Coach.
Yeah,
we do have.
Yeah, he can't hear us.
All right, we will get Coach back here shortly. All right, so you look elsewhere in the bracket. Colgate was one of the interesting teams in the net rankings.
Yep.
Can you explain why Colgate was regarded so highly?
Yeah, it's a small sample size. They've played 12 games. They've won all but one of them. That puts them pretty high in the team value index these things use. They haven't beaten the best competition, but they haven't really lost, right? So there's only that one loss. And these efficiency numbers, they've beaten teams by a lot. And they had they didn't have to play the best Patriot League teams this year. I think they beat Loyola in the championship, which was they were the 9 seed in that tournament. So, it's interesting. Over on my site, I think Colgate's the 3rd or 4th ranked team in my team rankings, which only uses data from this year. That's what Net uses as well. And I've actually left the kind of screwy numbers up on my site that says, Colgate has one of the 2 or 3 best win probabilities in the tournament. That's clearly wrong. But I think it's a good lesson in that you have to understand that small sample size can really mess with things. This is not the 4th best team in the nation. They would not be an essential push versus Baylor in a game in the NCAA tournament. I mean, I think they're a 10-point underdog to Arkansas, 8, 10, something like that. And that's what you would expect.
Sam, I love Ed's analogy, and this is where the analytics throws me for absolute. I hate it. I hate the net. The one thing Tom Izzo and I can agree on, Tom Izzo and I can agree on, the net, that mess is a bunch of garbage.
Well, you got to
hold on, Rams.
You got to introduce him right. The Spartans head coach, brought to you by Dan Gilbert, Tom Izzo. Now that's how you got to introduce him from now on.
There you go.
That's what are you talking about? Man, I'm just saying.
You go. But
hey, Coach.
I don't, and Ed made some very valid points in regards to analytics, the net, and all of that. The sample size is so small, and it is so off kilter that they played the bottom of the Patriot League. that their numbers have been inflated. Just now, the one thing they do, they score the basketball though. They really do, but it was against bad teams. So we'll see.
Well, they about to get, I think, Arkansas. Look out. I love Moses Moody. I love Moses Moody doing recruiting. Moses Moody came down to Arkansas and Michigan, and he decided to stay home. And he's one of the few guys. I mean, you look around, you look at a Walker Kessler, you look at some of these other guys that they recruited. They wound up. Who's my man that went to Texas Tech and it's transferring as a freshman? Name escapes me. 5-star out of Chicago Rams. It'll come to me. It'll come to me shortly. All those guys, they made these choices. Josh Christopher at Arizona State. You're looking at all these guys like, man, I wonder if they regret.
But see, what you're doing.
Moses Moody has balled out at Arkansas. Moses Moody averaging 17 points a game, filling it up at Arkansas. He's going to be a guy that I think folks are going to nationally be talking about, one of the young guys that folks are going to come out of this tournament talking about. I think Arkansas over Coach.
If they haven't figured it out, they better talk about him because he won't be there in 2 months. Moses Moody is going to be a lottery pick. Okay? He won't be there in 2 months. That's not a secret to those that know. You name, a lot of times kids pick different destinations for a lot of different reasons. And I think, behind the scenes, we know those reasons. And they don't always work out. Some work out and some don't. It's going to be interesting, though. But you're right. Moses Moody is an absolute talent.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas, when Alabama went to play Arkansas was a 2-point favorite in that game. So markets respect Arkansas a lot. And, they're going to be tough.
So I got them moving on. What do you guys think of Texas Tech, Utah State?
Texas Tech.
Go ahead, Coach.
Texas Tech, for the simple fact that they guard you. They're going to be in games in the tournament. And they're going to make it very difficult for teams to score. And in the tournament, if teams go in scoring droughts, it really becomes a mental thing. Mm-hmm. And, Texas Tech can get in your head mentally. And I think they have good enough offensive players that they're going to give people some problems.
Okay. What did the numbers say?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers love them. Every time I've seen them play, I've been underwhelmed. But I think this might be one of those situations where they get into the tournament and we're like, oh, dang, they played in a good conference.
Well, and understand something, Ed, you got a good point. When you look at them, you're not looking at Holly Berry. They're not, they're not glamorous, they're not pretty, but they just figure out a way.
Yeah, I mean, they're well coached. I mean, they're clearly one of the best defensive programs in the nation. So they're like numbers wise, they're kind of a pick that is pretty interesting. They're highly regarded with the analytics.
How deep you guys have Ohio State going?
I have Ohio State going to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I think Ohio State. Yeah, I think Ohio State makes it to the Elite Eight. I wouldn't be shocked if they came out of that region. I love watching Dwayne Washington play. I think Liddell and Suang are fantastic. They don't play much defense, but I don't think any team in this nation wants to play Ohio State. You look what they did against Illinois in that final, and they weren't good enough to beat Illinois. But that's because Illinois is one of the best 2 teams in the country.
Well, but also, it gets back to my philosophy with Michigan too. Ohio State have to be 100% man. And in that championship game, they did not have Young. Young was out. And that's a big out. If you have Young in that lineup, that changes them, And right. So if Young is back with them and healthy going into the tournament, they very well, I have them going to the Elite Eight, and they could make that final push to get into the Final Four.
So who do you two have coming out of the South region, starting with you, Ed?
I mean, I'll go with Ohio State here. I like that team. I think there's issues with Baylor that I'm not sure they can fix.
Rams?
You know what? God, I have that Ohio State Baylor matchup, and that's almost like a pick 'em to me. They are so similar, they're more similar than apart in the style of play. Ohio State, when they're shooting the ball well and shots are going in, they give people fits. Same thing with Baylor. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. Extremely hard one.
So you're not gonna give me a pick?
God, I'm gonna go with Ohio State. I'm gonna go with Ohio State.
All right, I'm going with Baylor coming out of that region. I think they find it. I think they wind up putting it together. I think that when you are affected as they were by COVID, not like the other teams not like Michigan, who I said before, their pause was not due to anything with the basketball program. Baylor's pause was due to issues of COVID on their team. And I just think physically it's taking them a while to come back from that. And I think they're going to find it here in the tournament. Jared Butler, looking for him to step up in a huge way. Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell. I like them leading the way for Baylor to the Final Four. All right, so let's go to the region that folks are calling the easiest region, and it should be for the number 1 overall seed, Gonzaga. You guys have Gonzaga coming out of the West?
Gonzaga's coming out of West.
Gonzaga. I mean, I'm almost at a point where I feel like I like this team. I like the program, and I think they're so good that, I think Illinois can play with them, but when they're on their game, I don't know who else can really play with them. But yeah, I think Gonzaga comes out of this. I do like Virginia as a team that I mentioned earlier. Like what Tony Bennett has done, they've kind of underachieved a little bit. But Sam Hauser and Trey Murphy are these two transfers they brought in that for their college careers are shooting over 40% from three. I think they're a very dangerous team.
So what's the word on Virginia at this point? Because they're one of the teams.
They're in.
Yeah, they're in they had the stoppage.
I thought they had some COVID issues that they were still.
Exactly. They still have to test. They have to test every day, and they have to be free for 7 days. So it's still very much, with this new testing protocol, come Friday or Saturday, we could have a couple of teams that don't play. Yeah. On the women's side, Gino Auriemma at UConn is all the way already out of the tournament. Mm-hmm. And the earliest he can come back is the Sweet 16.
Oh, wow.
So, this is a scary issue. Mm-hmm. And it's things that you have no control of. I'm searching for a game for my seniors this week because our last 2 games have been postponed due to COVID issues with other teams. Yeah. And so you have no control over this.
So, Ram, let me ask you the question. What's the impact if Virginia can't practice until the day before they travel or whatever? What's the impact on preparation? Even if they all can go and they're all fine, what's the impact on prep?
It's huge. It's absolutely huge because this time of the year, it's all about prep. So think about this, Ira. They're going to be doing all their prep on Zoom this week. Everything they're doing is on Zoom. Seriously. No on-court physical walkthroughs. It's on Zoom. So now, once again, we're talking about you need some cardiovascular work. You just can't take down 7 days and get it back in 1 day.
What did Juwan do? Juwan, his guys were out 2 weeks. They were doing something cardiovascular.
Yeah, in their room.
Had a week to build back up before.
And he was smart because he told them, Ed, we're not playing when we come back. The smartest thing he did, he said, hell no, we're not going to play. We're taking a week to build back up. Well, you don't have that option come this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you guys think of a team intriguing to me? I got Gonzaga coming out as well, but it's about who emerges as the biggest threat to them What do you think of USC? Because the young fella Evan Mobley has made a huge splash. Do you think that USC at the bottom of that bracket can make some noise?
I'm not buying anything out of the Pac-10. Matter of fact, you can't even pay me to take them. I'm not buying it. I'm just the Pac-10 is out of the Power 5. I don't even know how they keep the Power 5 name. It is just an absolute water weak conference. And I say this to say, people say, I'll go this far. If Gonzaga had played in the Pac-10, I still think they would have been undefeated this year.
Wow. Yeah, I hear you. They must not have treated Coach well at Cal out there, but you know.
No. Now understand something.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Understand something. During my days in the Pac was completely the opposite.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you why. My 96, we put 6 teams in the tournament. 4 went to the Sweet 16. Arizona finished in 5th place in the Pac. We beat them the last regular season team, and guess what? They won the national championship.
Yeah.
That's how good the Pac-10 was then. This mess you have now, no comparison.
So what about like, I ask myself why, and they've kind of lost this arms race with football money to the other 4 conferences. Do you think it's a trickle-down effect that's trickling down to the basketball teams?
No, I think what it is, it comes down to recruiting. UCLA is not the UCLA of years past. UCLA has been so watered down. I mean, think about it. UCLA was a perennial national power, even under Steve Lavin. As much as people didn't like Steve Lavin.
I hated Steve Lavin.
Coach Ben down at Mississippi State. Ben took them to 4 Final Fours.
Yeah.
UCLA, he took to 4 Final Fours.
Yep.
They were still a national power.
Yep.
But in their mind, UCLA lost it. They had to get rid of Ben. They have not recouped.
Yeah. So Sam, when you talk about USC, I know they have Evan Mobley, the big guy. I don't know much about him, but I will say, like, if you want to pick at Gonzaga, I don't know how they're going to defend bigs like Hunter Dickinson and Kofi Coburn. Drew Timmy's a great player, but he's 235 pounds. He plays hard, but Coach, I would actually like your opinion on that. I mean, I think they're going to have
my opinion is very simple. It becomes a chess match. And on the flip side, how does Hunter Dickinson and Kofi come guard those guys out on the floor? Because the guys you name are very proficient 3-point shooters and play very well on the perimeter. So now it becomes a matchup of styles. Okay. And I'm just saying Gonzaga's style is much more difficult to guard than Illinois or Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they go so much against the grain that they put 5 kids on the floor that can shoot. And that is unbelievably difficult to guard.
How good is Jalen Suggs in your mind?
Jalen Suggs is a top 5 pick in the draft. That's how good Jalen Suggs is.
But is he would you consider him for the number 1?
No, not with Cade Cunningham. He would be a very close number 2. And guess what? We're not talking defense in the NBA. We're talking about putting the ball in the hole. They don't play defense in the NBA. Okay, so
what do you think? What do you guys think of a potential USC Kansas matchup? Who would you have? Who would you favor in that matchup? Number 6 versus number 3.
I think Coach already gave you.
I actually have that matchup, and I think I'm tending to go with Kansas. And this is where I kind of go with the pedigree, and I go with Coach Self. Them being there, them doing this before, preparation,
playing
yeah, all those things right there. It kind of, that's where those things come into play.
What do you think? What do your numbers say about Missouri, Ed?
What do my numbers say about Missouri?
Missouri's in that 8-9 game, correct?
That's correct.
And I have Missouri winning that first game. Honestly.
Yeah, numbers have Missouri in the 40s, so not thinking too much. I mean, the strength of schedule adjustments are moving up Oklahoma. They like Oklahoma a lot more.
But who do you like?
I'll take Oklahoma. I'll take the team playing in the Big 12.
Ed likes those numbers, man. Come on. We can't get Ed off those numbers.
Hey, Coach, I try to get your opinion so I know when I got to go off my numbers.
You're right. But this, you know what? That Oklahoma-Missouri game is going to be, once again, a great 8-9 matchup.
So are you picking against the Pac-12 and every guy so VCU, Oregon? Who do you have?
I'm going with Oregon. I'm going with Oregon in that one. I'm going with Oregon in that one.
I got you. All right. So then we get to the Midwest. Get to the region, and I know you think that they have a breeze of a draw, Illinois Rams. I disagree. I think this is a gauntlet when you talk about a Sweet 16 matchup potentially with Oklahoma State. I think is like, man, you screwed us. That's what I'd be saying to the committee. Like, damn. But you're talking about a team in Tennessee that's intriguing as well. Jaden Springer is another. You talk about these dudes that Juwan was on last year. I've been tracking their progress. Jaden Springer is another one, Rams, that you look at in Tennessee that makes you say, whoa, wow, I see why he was a guy that Michigan was all over. But I just look at Oklahoma State and their body of work, what they've done in the Big 12 against all those teams, against Baylor, against West Virginia, against Texas Tech, against Oklahoma. Played them all, beat them all. Now, the team with the winning record against them is Texas. They're 1-2 against Texas, but you talk about being battle tested. Oklahoma State is a battle tested squad
Sam, not only are they battle tested, they're talented. Okay. They're talented. They arguably,
and they're gonna have the best player on the floor in every game.
They have the best player to me in the nation. When we're talking about pure talent, he's the best player in the nation, pound for pound. All this mess with Luka Garza and all that mess, man, take that mess someplace. Luka Garza is not even the best player in the Big Ten. He's not even the best player in the Big Ten. So,
who's the best player in the Big Ten?
Take that mess. Huh?
Who's the best player in the Big Ten?
Oh, the kid at Illinois, Ayo.
Okay.
Ayo is the best player in the Big Ten, flat out.
Right.
When the one thing they have, when they need a play to be made, he makes the play.
Well, and both ends of the floor.
At both ends of the floor. So I say that to say, but you're right. Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham, they can be problems. And the one thing we know about the NCAA tournament, when you have a great player in college, a great player can take you a long way.
Yeah, I wonder how will they guard him? Will they choose to will they play Ayo on Cade Cunningham, or will it be?
No. I'm not gonna waste. And see, this is the beauty of Illinois. I'm probably gonna start the Williams kid on. See, I don't want my best player overworking. Now, that's not to say at crucial times of the game he may not switch on him. But for the majority part of the game, I have to keep Ayo fresh because I need him to get us buckets. And Illinois is deep enough. And if you've noticed, what Illinois does a lot on the perimeter anyway, they switch. 1 through 4, they do a lot of switching. So the only position they don't switch is at the post spot. So you'll probably see multiple people on Cade, which I think is a great strategy.
Now, before we get to that Sweet 16 matchup, again, I got Oklahoma State taking care of Tennessee. Who do you have in the 8-9 matchup? Rams, you like Georgia Tech. What do your numbers say about that 8-9 matchup at Loyola Chicago versus Georgia Tech? I'm just not sold on the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely surged lately. I would probably make them about a point and a half favorite in that game based on what they've done. But, when you look at body of work, it could be a different story there. Personally, I'm going to disagree with the other guys. I don't think that really poses much of a round of 32 threat for Illinois.
Who? Which one? Either one of those teams?
Either.
No, it's not a threat. But in that game, I have Georgia Tech. And the one caveat that I go back to is they have a great player. They got the ACC Player of the Year on their roster. And whenever you have a great player, when you get in tournament situations, a great player can take over. And so you don't just win the ACC tournament not being very good. So intriguing. But like Ed said, I don't see them posing a threat to Illinois.
Okay. Bottom half of that bracket. And it sounds like which one of you guys said you weren't sold on Houston as a 2 seed?
That would be me.
That was Coach.
Yeah. And why aren't you sold on Houston?
Because they're not pretty.
Man,
they're not pretty. But what they are, they are flat out Whoopi Goldberg and will guard you to death.
Right.
Now, think about what I'm saying. Whoopi Goldberg has won how many Oscars, Ed?
I don't know why, man.
Saying. How many Oscars has Whoopi won?
I don't know.
So, listen what I'm saying.
I hear you.
I'm talking about a great actress, but you're not going to pick Whoopi in a beauty contest.
Right. Well, you think back to that. When did we beat them in the round of 32? That dog fight, that Poole hit the shot.
Yeah.
That's how they
Think
play.
about that. Think about that. Poole had to throw one in from 40 some feet
to beat them. So, I mean, I like Houston a lot as a defensive team. But I don't know. I'm not. I mean, I think they have some good guards. They offensively rebound well. I just have some questions. Like, I don't know.
I don't know how.
I don't even know who their go-to player is.
Who did
are they going to Grimes?
They play that makes you say, "Yeah, I know how good Houston is." That's my problem with them.
What's that?
Let me tell you this.
Who did they play that makes you say, "Yeah, I can really gauge that this is." I know how good this team. It's not like Gonzaga. I don't look at them and say, regardless of who they play, Gonzaga is just big time, right? You can see Jalen Suggs and Kispert, who we haven't talked about Kispert at all, who has really raised his draft stock. We talked about Drew Timme. They got so many weapons. I look at Houston. You know their style of play.
You don't know any of them. They just junkyard dogs. But what you don't want to do is run into them in an alley because you're gonna have to fight.
Yeah.
And so that's what scares me. They're not pretty, but they're tough as all get up. And they're going to fight you. And like Ed said, we had to throw in a half-court shot to beat them. That was an L. I think everybody sitting on here looking at that game thought we were going home in 4 seconds.
But they had a great player that year, too.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Hey, speaking of, Coach, where would you take Corey Kispert in the draft? Where are you putting his stock?
Corey Kispert is a first-round draft pick.
Is he a lottery pick though?
I don't think he's a lottery. I think he's going to be a 12 to 20 guy. And I think he's going to be a great pick though. He does so many things well. He does so many things well to go with his size. And the biggest one being he can shoot the basketball.
He shoot the blood out.
He can shoot the basketball. And there's just a premium when you're that size and you can shoot the basketball. And he really, I don't know if you guys, he moves like a perimeter player. He moves well for his size. He doesn't move like a big guy.
Well, he's what, 6'7"?
No,
so
he's closer to 6'9".
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
two matchups that I am stuck on in the Midwest, the 6-11 San Diego State Syracuse matchup. You always wonder about that matchup zone and how teams are going to react to it. But San Diego State is basically going to have a full week to prepare for it. So I wonder if that will allow them some more success, allow for them to have some more success. And then the 17, I'm intrigued by Rutgers, right? Rutgers is a team. I think the improvement that we saw from Jacob Young is largely responsible for where they are. And you saw a guy in Ron Harper Jr. kind of fall off the map as the season went on. He started out the season like gangbusters, but his efficiency, especially his shooting efficiency, dipped dramatically. If they can rediscover that a bit, I'm wondering, do you have Rutgers being able to pull the upset over Clemson in that 7-10 matchup?
Number one, it's not an upset to me. I pick Rutgers. I think Rutgers got a great draw. I think they're one of the Big Ten teams that you could look at the round of 16 and folks like, where the hell did they come from? And this would be the benefit of playing in the Big Ten and them getting a great draw. I like their draw. Nothing would surprise me with Rutgers.
What do you like about the team? Guard play?
They just in the NCAA tournament, they play so loose that they could get on a roll. But they also got a great draw. Draw is a lot of things. They just drew. There's certain teams they could have drew and they would have had no shot. They had a very good draw where they could win a couple of games just by pure matchups because of their guard play. The other we mentioned, who was San Diego State?
Yeah.
San Diego State can shoot the basketball. And so that's one of the first things going up against Syracuse zone that helps you tremendously. San Diego State can shoot it. So I think San Diego State will be just fine against Syracuse.
Yeah, I think the thing that has me thinking Rutgers in that Clemson matchup, guys, is, Clemson already is an offensively challenged team. They're number 99 in efficiency. And you're facing a team in Rutgers that really guards. Now, Rutgers isn't anything to write home about offensively either now, especially in the half court. I mean, they just don't shoot it well as a team, but they guard you and they harass you. Especially they're on the ball with Jacob Young. I think he's a menace. I think Miles Johnson is a good guy in the post for anything that leaks through and gets to the bucket. I like Rutgers in that matchup against the team that just doesn't wow you offensively to begin with in Clemson. That's why I was asking you, what do your numbers say, Ed, in that contest? Because I'm leaning Rutgers in that matchup too. Yeah,
the numbers are basically a push between those two teams. So if there's something that you like above, go for it. I would say go for picking Rutgers, the team coming out of the tougher conference.
Yeah, and then Syracuse, San Diego State. I just want to see Jim Boeheim go down. I don't know. I mean, that's just a pure heart pick. I don't know about y'all, but I want Boeheim to get dealt with early.
Oh,
yeah, my numbers see a really close one in that one too, within a point.
Hey, one of the listeners said you call Houston Sam Cassell, which is fitting, right? Sam Cassell wasn't pretty, but he could ball. They said, what did Charles Barkley say? Charles Barkley said Sam Cassell looks like Gollum. Gollum from Tales from the Crypt. And I can't think of a more apt comparison. Not Tales from the Crypt, but from Lord of the Rings. And I was like, man, I'll be damned. Sam Cassell does look like Gollum. But yeah, they don't play pretty. Same thing that we say about Rutgers. They don't play pretty, but it's effective. And I actually think that's going to be the matchup. I think it's going to be Rutgers-Houston. And then I'm going with West Virginia, San Diego State. And guys, I think West Virginia is going to be the team that makes it to the Elite Eight in a matchup with Illinois.
I agree. I absolutely agree. So I absolutely agree. I have that West Virginia-Illinois game.
All right, we got Brendan Quinn back for the final few minutes. I hope it was a scoop, Brendan. Hope it was a scoop.
Hey man, Brendan went get some putting practice in, man. He ain't not fooling nobody.
That's right. I wasn't doing nothing.
Hey, so who do you have coming out of the Midwest region? Real quick, I think it's a tough draw from Illinois. And then I have them. The matchup I'm stuck on is Illinois, West Virginia, Elite Eight. I'm leaning Illinois in that matchup, but I'm curious who you have.
I'm not picking against Io DeSumo under any circumstance.
I got you.
I'm taking Illinois. I just that they really actually remind me of some of those Michigan teams that made runs.
Do you, going back over some of the other matchups we talked about, I picked an upset because people want to hear about your upsets. I picked Winthrop over Villanova, and I'm curious what you think about that. I know the Wildcats. This is Colin Gillespie at this point.
No way.
I went with Winthrop.
Sam, no way in the hell you can have a gun to Brendan Quinn's head. He's not picking against Villanova.
Excuse me, I'm a St. Joe's grad, And you know who the biggest rival is? It's Villanova. So, and I am going to pick against Villanova. I like Winthrop.
Wow.
But it
Wow.
has nothing to do with my alma mater or any grudges. But I don't know. The only problem is Winthrop has like one, I think, top 100 Ken Pom win against Furman. Like, are they really up to the snuff of beating Villanova even without Colin Gillespie? I don't know. But, that's a program that's done it before, I believe. So, they'll believe.
Well,
and
guys, this is the most chalky Final Four ever. At least according to our panel, because if I'm not mistaken, all you guys have Baylor coming out of the South, right?
Yep. I went with Ohio State.
Oh, you went with Ohio State?
No. I think I went with Ohio State.
Here we go with the revisionist. Okay.
No, he did. Come on, Sam. Coach did say Ohio State.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Ohio State.
I'm taking Baylor. Thank you.
All right, I'm taking Baylor too. We all have Gonzaga. And one of the questions that we had, Brendan, because people want their upsets again. I mean, do you look around in the West region? Were there any upsets that you feel really strongly about? Like, hey, why?
I like Ohio over Virginia.
Really?
Yes.
Is it due to the COVID setbacks?
I think it's a combination of both. The situation with Virginia, you kind of feel a little uncomfortable with. I think Virginia's defense all year hasn't exactly been up to that program's standard. The MAC was like sneaky good this year, and coming out of that conference, I think says something. They have one loss since like mid-January for Ohio. Give me a what was the cat from back from 2012? DJ Cooper, is that his name? From Ohio when they upset Michigan.
Oh God, bringing back bad memories.
Yeah, man.
I can't remember the dude's name. I remember the
DJ something. I think.
Right.
That was the year before they made the run to the championship game.
It was.
Yeah, it was the year before. We beat them by 26. They beat Georgetown that year too. But DJ Cooper is the point guard you're talking about.
There you go, DJ Cooper.
Yeah, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And the biggest thing is styles. OU and Virginia coming off a 7-day pause, preparation, a great point guard, and some kids that can shoot. They very well could give Virginia a lot of problems and could send them home. I really had to look at that one real hard.
Okay, so you guys have Ed, you and Rams, you have Ohio State coming out of the South. I think that's the only one where we had some disagreement. We all have Gonzaga. We all picked Michigan, and we all picked Illinois, if I'm not mistaken. Did everyone pick Illinois? I know you did, Brenda. Did you pick Illinois Rams coming out of it? You did, and Ed.
Absolutely. I have Illinois. In the championship game against Gonzaga.
Okay.
Likewise.
Ed.
Oh yeah.
Gonzaga.
Yeah. That's going to be a heck of a game, man. That happens. I'm looking forward to enjoying all 40 of those minutes.
All right, fellas. Well, hell, it's been a hell of a breakdown show. A lot of disagreements as always with on a lot of things that it had nothing to do with the tournament, as a matter of fact. But we got it in as always, fellas. Appreciate your time. Have fun watching the tournament, and looking forward to kind of reconvening. Let's reconvene when the Final Four is set.
Love it.
Sounds good. You guys, everybody stay safe. You guys, let's enjoy these first couple of rounds. And Brendan, I look forward to seeing you on the links real soon.
Watching all. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, fellas, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back. I guess this would be where we break for the 7 o'clock hour. So we'll see you on the other side here on the Michigan Insider.